HBO's Euphoria contains some of the most impressive cinematography I have ever seen in any TV show. Aside from the impressive lighting and stunning visuals, the aspect that has caught my attention the most is the camera movement. Euphoria's camera movement is used to develop characters and convey their emotions. Cinematography, like writing and acting, is a storytelling tool. Like in this scene, how the camera quickly draws towards both Kat and Daniel. It establishes their sudden and unexpected sexual tension. Or like how this scene highlights Rue's loneliness as she struggles with addiction. While these examples are effective for storytelling, I think there are two other purposes of this style of camera movement that are far more crucial to the structure of the show: pacing and cohesion. From the very first episode, there is a fluidity and a swiftness to the shots. The camera is rarely stationary. I'll talk about the more stationary and subdued style of camera operation later in the video, because this also holds its rightful place in the show. Swift camera movement is not a revolutionary concept, but the reason for its use is what interests me the most. Edgar Wright's movies are renowned for having quick transition shots primarily used to convey a message effectively and quickly. They are fast, but upon closer inspection, they tell a 5-second story to form a bridge between one scene and the next. The purpose of Euphoria's swift camera movement is slightly different. These shots don't just carry you over from one scene to the next. They achieve this, and then continue right through the scene until the next transition. There is one episode in particular that demonstrates best why the camera movement is so important for pacing and cohesion. This is episode 4 of season 1. The entire episode, aside from the opening segment, takes place in one location: the carnival. Despite the simplicity of using one location, the episode ambitiously encompasses the story of all 12 main characters. We have Fezco, Ashtray, Rue, Lexi, Gia, Jules, Maddie, Nate, Cal, Cassie, McKay, and Kat. Simply put, we, the audience, are the camera. In Euphoria, the camera is more often than not on the move, which means we are too. As the audience, we have no other choice but to grab onto the camera and let it carry us through the episode, like a child holding their parent's hand as they cross a busy road. The primary focus of this episode is Jules. The opening segment sheds some light on her childhood. This opening segment sets the precedent for what type of camera movement is to come for the duration of the episode. Again, here, the camera is used as a storytelling device as it pulls away from Jules' mother, conveying her feeling of abandonment. After the title card, we focus on Rue for 3 minutes. The shots here are stationary. The scene is allowed to breathe, almost like the calm before the storm. At the 12-minute mark, we arrive at the carnival. This is when the fluid and swift camera movement really kicks it up a notch. We begin with Fezco and Ashtray. The shot transitions to reveal Rue, Gia, and Lexi, which transitions to reveal Maddie, which moves upwards to introduce Jules and Kat, which moves downwards to show Nate, who meets up with Maddie, before continuing onwards to join up with Cal and the rest of his family. If there's one way to ensure an ambitious episode does not feel disjointed and messy, it's to introduce every character in one fluid shot. So, while the camera movement of Jules' opening scene dictated the pace, the shots in this opening carnival scene established the cohesion. After this introductory segment, the shots remain fluid. The episode remains cohesive thanks to the camera movement. The speed of the camera remains relatively constant. That is until Maddie arrives to confront Nate's family. The speed of the camera movement dramatically increases, and again, as a result, so do we. This builds the tension of this scene, while also acting as a springboard for tension and general unease for other scenes. Rue can't find Gia. Nate has grabbed Maddie and proceeds to physically abuse her, and Cal follows Jules as his whole world begins to crumble around him. Thanks to the camera movement, the pace of the episode is under control, and in a way that feels cohesive and natural. So, while upon reflection I find the camera movement to be particularly noteworthy, in the moment we feel immersed. Jules finally meets with Tyler, only to discover that Tyler is actually just Nate. The shots here are relatively static, much like the shots earlier in the episode with Rue. This puts emphasis on the scene and gives it weight. However, this is just one scene. What about a whole episode that does this? I mentioned earlier how a more stationary and subdued style of camera operation was important to the structure of Euphoria. I initially wasn't going to include this in the video, but then episode 5 of season 2 came out. This episode was a firm reminder that Euphoria is ultimately about one person, Rue. As seen in the Carnival episode, the number of characters and how many stories they are wrapped up in means Euphoria's camera movement needs to control the pacing and cohesion of the show. But what about when it doesn't need to? What happens when Euphoria is telling just one story? Watch episode 5 again and pay close attention to just how much more subdued the camera movement is in comparison to every other episode. The camera didn't need to achieve the cohesion because the cohesion looked after itself. Unlike the Carnival episode, where we followed the stories of 12 people, in this episode we just followed one. Earlier I said we are the camera as it moves through a scene. This is also the case when the camera is static. When the camera isn't moving, neither are we. Much like everyone who knows Rue, we could do nothing else but just watch her as she broke down. We were as shocked as those around her, so the camera movement was almost non-existent. There were shots in this episode that lingered far longer than any shot in Euphoria ever has. Again, this controlled the pace of the episode. The whole world slowed down in front of us, as Rue's whole world collapsed around her. The contrast that this episode provided in terms of cinematography style was extremely impressive. It felt like a break from normal service. It reminded me of the infamous Fly episode from Breaking Bad. This episode also told just one story. The cinematography was simple and intimate, and the shots lingered to allow the story to breathe. So, why is the cinematography in Euphoria next level? At the beginning of the video I said that cinematography is one of the tools of storytelling, but with Euphoria, it's the key. In my opinion, it is the key to everything that is great about the show. It allows us to follow multiple stories without feeling like it's disjointed. It allows the pace to speed up when these stories are reaching a climax. And most importantly, it allows the story to slow down when it's time for the spotlight to be shone on our main character.